Hello, it's ukulele time. I'm Ben Eagle, Reader's Advisory Librarian and ukulele teacher. And today I'm going to show you fingerpicking style. Fingerpicking is exactly what I just did for the intro. It's instead of strumming the strings, we're going to add more color by picking out individual notes. And I'm going to show you that today. So we'll go over the names of the fingers, go through some different exercises, and we'll show a couple examples of how you might do it with songs. So let's move right into the lesson. Okay, when we started the first lesson, I introduced the numbers of the left hand. So for finger picking, we're going to have some kind of system for the right hand. So I will be showing you the letters, mind you, not numbers. The right hand has letters. So if we look on the screen, you'll see that it uses the Spanish names. This comes from the Spanish style guitar playing, the finger picking, flamenco have you, or any of the Spanish style finger picking you would think of. All those scores have the Spanish name, so this is the system that a lot of people use, so that's the one I'm going to use. So you'll know what they are moving forward if you see these names. Make sense? So, your thumb, so when you see these letters, when you see P, don't think pinky. Your thumb is going to be P. Your index is going to be I. Your middle is M. And your ring is A. Now, there is a letter for the pinky, but we won't be using the pinky really. There's only 4 strings on the ukulele. So we have your thumb, P, index, I, middle, M, and ring finger A. So index and middle, you can still think of I and M. But the biggest thing to remember is when you see P, that's your thumb. When you see A, that's your ring finger. Okay, we need to know that moving forward. Okay, we got it? All right, we'll move forward some more. So now I'll pull my screen forward a little bit so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So as we remember, when you're holding the ukulele, you're holding the neck up with your left hand, or I should say your fretting hand, because if you're left-handed, it's probably going to be the other way. But if you're left-handed, you're probably used to flipping things. Anyway, so I'm holding up the neck with my left hand and the body of the ukulele with my right hand. Okay, and then so you kind of assign each finger to its own string. And remember, we're not using the pinky. So you want your fingers coming at it perpendicular, straight at the strings, not at an angle. So your wrist might look kind of curved like that. So when we do them, we'll be doing exercises with just these 3 fingers, and then we'll be doing some with those 3 and the thumb. So it depends on the exercise you're doing, but for now, just think about assigning each finger to its own string. So I have this first string I'm getting with my ring finger, which is A. This string above I'm getting with my middle, then index and thumb. So they're all assigned to their own string. Then my thumb kind of sticks out at an angle like that. So my fingers are coming perpendicular to the strings, and my thumb sticks out and gets it with the side of it. Now I do have some fingernails on my hand, but with ukulele strings it's not completely necessary because you can just pick, they're nylon strings. So I play guitar though too, so having some fingernails helps for this finger style. Okay, so that's the style, or that's how you want to be holding the ukulele. So let's move forward to some examples now. Okay, you can follow along with this part with the finger picking exercises sheet that I included. It's either, if you're watching YouTube, it's the link at the bottom, or I guess it's the link in the comments if you're watching in Facebook Live. And I'll also show each example I'm talking about in the screen. But these are things you'll want to practice regularly just to get used to it. As with anything, incorporate it into your regular practice routine just to get used to these different styles of playing. Okay, the first example here, we're just going to use the G and C chords. So by this point, I hope you're comfortable switching between chords. So we have your G chord and your C chord. Now if you look, I have this represented in tablature. So we're just gonna, each of these notes is one quarter note, so one beat. You'll see on the left it says 4/4 time. So each of these notes gets one beat per measure. So it's 4 beats per measure, so each is the same amount of time. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One quarter note beat for each note playing. So you start by holding your G chord down. So with each of these, with the chord above, you're not going to change shape from that until the chord symbol changes. So once you get these patterns down, you'll see they just repeat. Now on the bottom, it shows the different representations of your right hand, or your picking hand, I should say. So A, remember, is your ring finger, M is your middle, and I is your index. So I get those ready on the strings because it's going to stay in that pattern the whole time. So I have my index on the first string, my middle over the second string, and my pointer over the third string. So I have my hand in position, and each of those is going to pick one note in that chord. So when you pick it, you just move it gently and bring it back into place. You don't want it to go higher than the string above it. So we have. So again, that example, I'm holding it close so you can see what my hand's doing. Okay. So then the whole exercise, it keeps that same pattern when you get to the C chord. So we have, then C. And with these exercises, I just keep repeating them back and forth, the G and C. Okay? So practice that as much as you need to before you move on. The next example is gonna be the same pattern, but now we're incorporating our thumb. So instead of using A, your ring finger, it's gonna start on your middle index and thumb. So this is another common shape you'll see when you're playing these. So you get your fingers in position. Instead of this shape now we have this shape. We're grabbing with these three fingers. Middle, index, and thumb. So, got my G chord shape. Starting with the middle finger on the first string, I have Now it's important to note when you're going through these exercises, you want to make it as smooth as possible. So every note you're counting in your head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You want it as smooth as possible. What you don't want is okay, we're working on our timing and trying to keep that inner metronome, that inner time in your head, that inner click just going dun, dun, dun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we'll look at the next exercise. Okay, this next one is a little more complicated because at the beginning you're going to be doing 2 notes at once. So you'll be squeezing with 2 fingers. So please don't move on to this one until you feel comfortable with the other ones. But I'm going to show it to you so you know how to do it. So you can go back and reference it when you're ready. So once you're comfortable with those other ones, once you get a smooth playing for those other 2, then you can try this one. So this one is a lot like the second exercise, except at the very beginning of each measure, you're also using your thumb. So you have, if you notice there's an M and then a P below it, that means you're playing both of those at the same time. And if you look at the tab, you see that it's the 2nd fret on each of these strings. So those 2 notes in your G chord. So, squeezing both the 1st and the 3rd string, we have 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see that that's kind of giving it a little more full sound. That other note, that you're sustaining one note while you're playing the other ones. Okay, I should note that if you're confused about the tab, the tablature is just representing what the chords are. So it's showing you exactly what you're playing, but it's not going to make sense if you're trying to just pick those out individually. You want to be holding that chord shape. So you'll notice that the 2 on the 1st string and 2 on the 3rd string, for the first notes of that tablature, you're playing those at the beginning. And then 3 on the 2nd string, and then 2 on the 3rd, and then so it's more about the pattern. So if you're holding that shape, I would look more at the little symbols below once you know what strings you're on. So knowing those letters of which fingers to pick is going to be key. Okay, so it's a repeating pattern back and forth. So once you get it on the first measure, you got it for the whole thing. And that goes for all these exercises. Okay, so the next one is gonna be using the same technique we just used, except now we're using this string. We haven't used the 4th string at all in any of these. We've only been playing the top 3 notes. But now we'll be incorporating that in there. So, start with your G chord again, and now this one is kind of similar to the first exercise because you're going to be using A, your ring finger, A ring finger. So if you look at there, A, middle, I, and then thumb up here, P. So I assign each of my fingers to each of these strings. Remember, you're not using your pinky. Okay, so now that I'm in position, the exercise sounds like this. You can end it with just those, or you can end it with a strum of the first chord. Remember, you always end with the first chord you started with. Okay, so once you got those other techniques down, now these next two examples are in 3/4 time. If you remember at the beginning of these lessons, I said most popular music is in 4/4 time. That's true, but there's also a lot in 3/4 time as well. That's another popular one. So this next one, the technique's still the same, but you're just counting differently. So instead of in your head going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, now we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's kind of a flowing rhythm. It's a nice slower one. It's a common dance one. It's a waltz rhythm. That's the waltz time, 3/4 time. So, same technique in this one. I did switch the chords though, just to keep things interesting. Especially since the song examples I'll be showing use this F and C7 chords. So, you should know the F and C7 from watching previous videos. So we have the F chord, and then the C7 chord. Okay, and then looking at the exercise, you'll see the fingers that I'm going to use. So it says A, M, I, A, M, I. It's that pattern repeating. So that is ring finger, middle finger, pointer finger. And if you look at the tab, you see it's on the first 3 strings. So, with our F chord, and my fingers in place, it's just going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, then the C7 chord. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So, it's that pattern repeating. Okay, so the second example is assuming that you got the thumb pattern down where we're picking both 2 notes at once. So I've got my F chord and I've got each finger assigned to a string and still in 3/4 time. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I just felt like ending it with a strum. You can do that or pick out the notes. So, ended it with 1 strum of F. So, you go through all those exercises and you're thinking, what now? Well, these next ones are a little more advanced. They're 1/8 notes. So, it's going to incorporate the same techniques, but you're squeezing twice as many notes in each measure. So 1/8 notes, you're dividing the beat in half. So if you're in 4/4 time, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your 4 beats. But the 1/8 notes are going to be 2 beats. You're playing 2 notes for each of those. So I wrote the count on there. If you're in 4/4 time, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If you're in 3/4 time, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay. So, as with the other things, please don't try this until you feel comfortable with everything else. But once you're ready, you're just gonna work on that counting, getting 2 notes in at a time. So either count out loud when you're playing or count in your head, but make sure you're counting to keep these nice and smooth. So now you see that there's all sorts of marks on there. So this exercise, I'm going right into the ones where I'm picking 2 notes at the beginning because I'm supposing that you've already learned that technique because you've worked on all the other ones. So we're doing our F chord and our C7 chord. So you got your F chord, and now if you look at the little blue diagram of the picking right above the letters, it's starting to look like a ruler sort of. I've got the quarter notes marked with the longer line, and the next beat is with the smaller line. So it's going to be, you're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, because it's 4/4 time. And we have getting your right hand or your picking hand in position. You have, for your first beats, it's P and A. That's thumb and ring finger. And then for the next ones, you have middle and index. So it's that same pattern of picking the top and bottom first, and then second, third, second. Second string, third string, second string. That's what I mean when I say that. Okay. So, got your F chord in shape, and you're going to count 8th notes now. So, this is the exciting part. You have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? So, you're getting twice as many in for each measure. So, I'll play it without counting just so you can hear it. Isn't that fun? Okay, so now we'll try the same kind of thing. I've got the same pattern for 3/4 time. So now we're doing 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. And I should say, when you're doing these exercises, count as slow as you need to. Do 1 and 2 and 3 and. Count at the speed that you feel comfortable picking these. You never want to rush it because you just want to work on getting it smooth. Once you can play it slowly smooth, your speed actually just naturally gets better once your technique is down. So you never rush the speed. It just comes naturally. Okay, so we have the F shape. I'll do it a little slower just so we get the idea. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, then I'll play it without counting. Still counting in my head though. measure is. At a certain point, you can just listen to the music and know how the pattern sounds. But keep counting in your head till you get to that point. Because eventually, you'll have to sing along with stuff if you want to get to that point. Which who doesn't want it? Okay, so that would be what you're practicing, all those exercises on the sheets. Take your time with them. Don't rush into any other. Incorporate them in your practice routine, whether you're playing 15 minutes a day, half an hour a day. Just try to work on each of those exercises in that sheet. And then, when you incorporate them into songs, you can kind of do it with any song. You just replace those patterns with the strum pattern. So if it's in 4/4 time, use one of those picking patterns in 4/4 and see how it works with the song. If the song is in 3/4 time, same thing. Just so you get the idea, I'll show a couple folk songs that we can use the picking pattern in, that it might seem more appropriate to do a picking pattern. So now we're looking at the songs. These are just a couple examples I wanted to show, just so you get the idea. Like I said, you can play these patterns with any song. Instead of strumming, you can try the finger picking. It might sound better on some than others, but that's okay. When it works really well. So, on the sheet, if you've opened it up, it's finger picking songs. If not, I'm also showing the examples on the screen, so no worries. First off, I'm including one chord that we haven't learned, the G minor chord. If you've done all the other chords so far, this chord isn't too difficult. And just first finger, first string, first fret, second finger, third string, second fret, and third finger, second string, third fret. So as the diagram shows, it's a variation on the G chord. It's the minor chord. Okay, the other chords we're using in these songs are F and C7, which we did in some of the examples. So the first example is going to be Hush Little Baby. This finger picking works really well with lullabies. I'm not sure how well my low register works as a lullaby, but I'll do it for you, just so you get the idea. So 4/4 time, an example. I'll do one with the simplest example from the exercises, the first one. And then I'll do it with the more complicated one, like the 8th note patterns, just so you can get an idea that you can do any of the patterns that I showed. You just find which one works the best for the song. So, Hush Little Baby, you'll see the chords there. And we'll do that simple pattern as it showed before with the one that doesn't use your thumb, that starts with A, your ring finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is a lullaby, so it should be sung kind of slow. So we have Hush little baby, don't say a word. Papa's gonna buy you a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird don't sing, Papa's gonna buy you a diamond ring. Now I only wanted to show the first verse in these. I encourage you, if you want to start playing these please look up the other verses. It's the same with both of the examples here. It's the same thing repeated. So you know how the song goes. He goes through all the other things that he'd buy to hush the baby down. So now I'll do it with the eighth note example, just so you get the idea of how that would go. So let's see, that one goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Or no. Oh, I started doing the 3/4 time. So the eighth note's for 4/4 time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Hush, little baby. Oop. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Papa's gonna buy you a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird don't sing, Papa's gonna buy you a diamond ring. And if that diamond ring don't shine, Papa's gonna buy you something else. I don't remember the next verse, but that's the idea. So keeps buying new things. You can look up the rest of the verses if you want to keep doing that. But the reason I show that example is so you know that you can incorporate any of these patterns that we just did into any song. So just to further illustrate that point, I'll do one more in 3/4 time. So down on the second page on the sheet or on the screen, you'll see that simple example, you know, without your thumb. You can do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now this song uses that G minor chord too, but with the example, I'm just showing the F to C7. I think I'll need a drink of water for this one. Okay, so 3/4 time. And this one, you'll notice that the lyrics start before the chord at the beginning. That's the pickup notes. So you're singing before you come in. So you have in a cavern. So in a cavern, in a canyon, excavating for a mine, dwelt a miner, 49er, and his daughter, Clementine. Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine, you were lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine. So that's the simple one. And then you can do any other one. You can do the, so with 3/4 time, the eighth notes would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. So this might be a little tricky with both the eighth notes. You really want to feel comfortable so you have the muscle memory down, because I'll admit it can get a little confusing when you're trying to sing over something. You tend to sing exactly what you're playing. So you want to get it down enough where you don't have to think about it. 1, 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3, and. In a cavern, in a canyon, excavating for a mine, dwelt a miner, 49er, and his daughter, Clementine. Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine, you were lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine. So, something like that. Again, you can use these examples. You can look up the other verses to this song. There's a few more. Do either of these songs or any other song you think you want to learn, you can look up. There's a lot of different sites on the internet that share songs. Or you can pick up a songbook. Some of the songs I got were inspired from this old 70s book. We actually have a copy at the library. This one is an ex-library copy too, but this was one I bought. So yeah, this is a great book. Has a lot of old classic folk songs in it. We have other more contemporary songbooks at the library as well. So anything that shows the measures on there and the chord symbols, you can try these patterns with. So work with these patterns and get them down into the muscle memory, and you're gonna have a lot more fun ways to play different songs. Trust me on this one. It's a lot more fun sometimes to do finger picking style and can really change the direction of the song. So rewatch any of this or look at any of the sheets and keep on practicing. Until then, this has been a good ukulele time, so thank you. Bye.